Happy Friday. I'm really excited today because I met these two ladies, I think last year or the year before, and I just fell in love with them right off the bat. And who doesn't like the name conveyor cougar because it makes everybody raise their eyebrows?
Lauren
Oh,
does not.
I'm not
That one there. Yeah, she does not.
that's fair. But if you don't know these two ladies, I'm going to assume that you're not in manufacturing or your life is just completely boring. So, welcome to Mavens of Manufacturing. Today I have Lauren and Cathy from Flexline Automation. And I'm really super excited to have you two here. So, thank you so much. I know you guys are busy, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to spend a moment with me and have a conversation about who you are and what you do. So, let's start off with that. Before we get started, I do want to mention to anyone listening, if you are on LinkedIn and you're dropping comments and I'm not pulling them up, it's because LinkedIn is some kind of special recently and it's not letting me see all of your comments. It is a lot better on YouTube. So if you go to the Mavens of Manufacturing on YouTube, they should be pulling up a lot quicker there. But we did get one from Stephen Rogers already. Yay.
Hey, Steven.
Steven.
I hope you caught all of your varmints.
So, all right. Well, ladies, let's get started. Can you dive into a little bit of who each of you are, and then let's start talking about Flexline too, because you're a family-owned business and you've been in business for a lot of years, and I think that's really great because sometimes you don't see that very often, and I think family-owned businesses are really the salt of the earth of U.S. manufacturing. So, Cathy, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Well, I am co-founder of Flexline. We started the business with my husband and his parents in our farm shop, literally in the bay right next to the combine. So we've had very, very humble beginnings. So I've been in this for a minute. Actually, this year will be my 40th year, my husband's 40th year. I'm also, for those of you that don't know, Lauren's mom. And that adds a very interesting dynamic to the family business. We've been doing it for a while. Lauren is one of the few people who can probably say she's 30-something years old with 30-something years of experience because she literally was born and raised at Flexline. So
I've been answering phones since I could toddle. So yeah, my customer service voice, like perfected by age 5, I swear.
Oh, that girl could work a trade show. Let me tell you, at 10 years old, I could take her out. I took her to a trade show in Anaheim and she's like out there looking at badges and somebody from Mattel walked by and I turn around and she's got like all of these Mattel guys in our booth. And she's like, Mom, they make Barbies. And I'm like, oh, yes.
I was so proud of myself.
She's trying to get free toys at the trade show. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Lauren, tell us a little bit more about the part that you play then, because obviously you were an expert by the time you were 5 and doing sales. But
well, I mean, I don't know that I'm an expert per se, but if anybody gets Barbie hair tangled in a tabletop conveyor system, I can give you all the tips because they 100% look like roller coasters to me, especially like Alpines. and yeah, so there's some very unique skills that I bring to the table that, probably no one else in this industry has. But technically, my role within Flexline is that of sales and marketing manager. Additionally, occasionally being in a small business, I will handle other roles, whether those are customer service or bookkeeping or engineering or assembly.
Your mom reined in or showing her how to turn on the do not disturb on her phone.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
She does a lot of tech support for me.
I don't know that that's necessarily the case because keeping mom reined in is pretty much impossible. So if that was my job, I would be fired by now. But yeah, so there's a whole lot. And being in a family business is a lot of fun and it's very interesting. I mean, after I got my master's, I decided to come back because I recognized that family was the most important thing to me, and being able to be here and spend that time with, at that time, both of my grandfathers before they have since passed was some of the best times of my life. My grandpa Orville and my grandma Dot, which are my dad's late parents, they founded the company with mom and dad in the early 80s. And so Grandpa Orville was the only one still left around at that time. And he would come in and we would go to breakfast. And, it was just so many wonderful conversations and things that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to have with him.
If she's telling you the good side of the family business, but the bad side of the family business was, I don't even know why she would want to come back and join the company, because it literally took up our entire life. I don't think there was a holiday dinner that we weren't sitting talking about business. Or
that is absolutely true. I had so much resentment for the company whenever I was a kid. I mean, it was like the new baby. Like, it didn't matter that it was older than me. Like, it was the baby. It got all the attention. Christmas, we were talking about that. Like, I mean, whenever I joined, I can remember one of the first conversations that we had out to dinner, and I was a part of the conversation, and I was so excited.
And it was my husband adult table.
Right? Because so my husband also works with us. So it's like all family all the time, right? And it's Christmas just this past year, and he just stops and he looks at me and he's like, "It's Christmas. Why are we discussing this?" And I'm like, "But it's Christmas. This is what this is a family tradition."
That's awesome.
Growing a business is like having a child. She's not wrong there, because it was very consuming. And my husband and I both traveled early on when Lauren was just a baby and a toddler. He did all the traveling, and I have to give him, my husband's name is Rhett, I got to give him a shout out, because he would leave me with a farm and this baby and this business, and the water pump would go out or something ridiculous like that. And he, from a hotel with running water, would make a comment like, "Well, you could take a bucket and go down to the pond." And those were the absolute wrong things. Gentlemen, if your wife calls you with a problem like that, do not recommend they get a bucket and go down to the pond. So that poor guy, I mean, he got all the abuse from the end of the phone line that any guy could ever get. I'm sure my resentment was very palpable. And so the early days were tough days and fun days. But, I'm glad to be at this stage in my career now. And hey, ladies, just call somebody to come in and fix it, and let your husband handle the bill when he gets back, if he wants to be smart like that. I mean, that's the way I figured it out.
That's like
calling him for those little issues. I just called
him. I do want to get more into the history of your company, because you said that you started it with the grandparents, so your husband's mom and dad, correct?
Yes.
That's what you said. But before that, LinkedIn is finally working, so we have a bunch of people coming in.
Welcome, everybody.
Hey, guys.
Good morning. Love this powerhouse duo. Dale says, "I'm in, ladies." Nikki, Automation Ladies, you guys talked to her yesterday. Good morning. We have Doris, hello from Boston. LinkedIn user, hello from Zimmer Group in North Carolina. I wish I was there right now because it's freezing here. And then he goes, "Relationships are crazy, or cray sometimes. So power to you all." I love this. You two are an awesome team.
Hello. Hey, that's Bridget. We met her at A3. That's awesome.
Yeah, hey, Bridget, hi.
Thank you for joining us. And then Steven said, so you were like a middle child then.
She was totally the middle child.
And then Justin said, "My internet is being a jerk, but I'm here for now." Well, I hope
to see you,
Justin. So yeah, let's talk about, where the idea came for FlexLine Automation, because you weren't always into automation, correct? Like you started out as a different type of company.
We started out, we were farmers actually, and my father-in-law sold industrial filtration for a living. So he's always had a manufacturing background. My husband was going to school. I was going to school. We were just married. We had just found out we were expecting Lauren. And my husband had the opportunity to go to work for the state of Illinois. And I was super excited about him doing that, because that would mean steady income and not farm income and that kind of thing. And my father-in-law come rolling in one day and he said, I met this engineer. He called on SKF bearing plants and FlexLink. One of our largest conveyor partners was owned by FlexLink at that time. And he says, we've got this opportunity. They are wanting to get into the US market and they have absolutely no representation. There's no structure. There's no nothing. And he was good friends with a gentleman by the name of Bud Lane. Went on to found Spantech. And if the Spantech ladies are listening, hey gals, so our dads kind of partnered up and Spantech took over the import and distribution for FlexLink before FlexLink ever had an office in the US. And we became like sales reps for them. And so that's how we got into the conveyor business. And unfortunately, my father-in-law was like, we should do this. And I'm like, but he's got a job lined up and we've got a baby coming. And I really didn't want to do this. So we did it. And that was how that worked. So I came into the business kind of reluctantly. And I came into the business just like doing all the things that the guys didn't have time to do, plus trying to take care of the farm and all of that stuff. So that's really where we started. And then in 1987, Bud's company had developed the conveyor system called Designer System at that time. And so he had chose to part company with FlexLink. And so we took over that distributorship or that systems integrator position for FlexLink. So we've actually been a FlexLink integrator for longer than FlexLink has been in the United States. So we've got a long history in conveyors. But everybody thinks we're just a conveyor company, and that is not true. About 10 years ago, we kind of realized that the market was changing and conveyors were becoming more of a commodity item. So it was like, well, what are we going to do to stay relevant? And so we got into robotics and more into other systems integration and started growing that direction. And it turned out that, things have kind of gone that direction, and it was a good decision to make at the time.
Mm-hmm. And you're labeled as a woman-owned business, correct? So when did you make that decision to get labeled that way?
Well, we've always been a woman-run company. Even when I was the one packing the boxes and all of that, I'm just naturally bossy. So everybody's like, how did you end up being the president? Well, I mean, it was just a natural place for me to be. But we decided, my husband and I and Lauren were the shareholders now, since his parents are since gone. Mm-hmm. And we decided to do some reallocation, which put Lauren and I as majority owners of the company. And so my husband's like, well, you've been running this whole time. We should be women owned. We should take advantage of being woman owned. And so we're working right now on finalizing our certification for that. And we're super excited for that. And I'm very grateful to my husband for having the confidence in Lauren and I to sign his shares over to us, and to trust us. So that's been a relatively new and exciting turn of events at FlexLine.
It has, although I have to say, I don't know that it is entirely not his 10-step plan to retirement. I'm very suspicious.
I am too, because he just recently wrote a book that he is in the process of having published. And so I go look in his office and I'll be like, well, will you work on this? And I'll go in there and he's working on his book. So I don't think Lauren is necessarily wrong. I think this may be his, well, hey, it's yours now. See ya.
Take care. Right? That's hilarious. Well, Lauren, I want to get back to you too. So I know a lot of people in manufacturing who've come from family-owned businesses, and it is a different dynamic than, non-family-owned businesses. And I know some who really loved it, and they hopped in right away into the business. And there's others where they were like, I absolutely did not like it. It was forced on me, and I left. But then some of them who it was forced on and left, they were like, no, I realized that was the best thing ever. So I returned, and now I'm helping grow the business and all that stuff. So I really want to know, like, what were some of your passions before coming back to Flexline? And like, what was it? You mentioned that family was important and stuff, but what was like that aha moment, that deciding factor for you where you were like, no, I'm going to go back to Flexline and help run the
Well,
business?
I think it was while I was, so I went and I got my master's. I have an MBA from Mississippi State University.
Okay.
And while I was there, it was one of those, like, you don't really realize how well you fit somewhere until you are, 6 hours south and suddenly you're the Yankee and like, oh, things were not so bad in Southern Illinois. Like, I have always, I love living on a farm. I love the rural values, and the work that we do at Flexline is pretty freaking cool. I mean, I have to admit that out loud, but, just the entire area here, I love living in a flyover state. And I'm sure everybody on either coast would be like, what in the heck is wrong with you? I know several of my friends that have moved away after, high school and things like that. They're like, why are you still there? Like, you're so smart. You're so competent. Why would you stay in that area? And it's like, if everybody with any work ethic and dreams and vision for small towns and rural America leaves for big cities, then small towns don't get the opportunity to grow. And tourism and bringing things and educating people about the history in the area. And so Chester, Illinois is the home of Popeye, the sailor. And we were right across the river from the first capital of Illinois that got washed away in a flood. And I mean, there's all of these really cool little tidbits of history in this area. And I really enjoy sharing those with people and sharing, just the love of everything here. Yeah, I have to drive an hour to get to a mall, but Amazon exists now, so that's not nearly as the hardship that it used to be. So yeah, I mean,
she almost didn't come back to work.
I didn't.
I mean, it's cold here.
But when she graduated from Mississippi State, she almost didn't come back to Flexline.
Well, that is true. And the only reason that I wound up coming back was we got a really, really big project and they needed project management assistance with it. And so we had actually, it was this giant system at the time, 6 identical sets of conveyor systems, each one consisting of about 25 different conveyors, upper and lower. And it was a big pallet system. And so I think overall they were like 80 feet long and almost like 30 feet wide with pick and place robots and all of this on there. And we had to rent a separate facility a few towns over to actually have the manufacturing space for it. And we turned out all 6 of those in, I think, 4 months.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But it was a very crazy time. And so I really, in that role, doing the project management and everything, I got to kind of use my MBA a little bit. Like, I think that was probably the first and only time I've ever had to use a Gantt chart. But it also, like, I got a lot of project management experience. And
you took a totally different direction with this than what I thought you were going to take, because actually I wasn't going to hire her.
No, she was pretty good. It was like, you left and went to grad school?
No, you left.
You're dead to me.
You don't deserve to come back. You left us. That is hilarious.
Against my better judgment, her dad went ahead and rehired her. And I have to say, I am so glad that he did, because Lauren is absolutely crushing it. And I could not be any more proud of her or having her in the business. And, her dad and I both are just super proud of Lauren and her husband, Eric. And we finally see a way out. And Lauren's going to be next in line for the throne. So, we're just really glad that worked out the way that it did. So I have to say to my husband, honey, if you're watching, that was one of those times that you were right and I was wrong. much as I hate to say.
This is getting recorded too, so now we can.
Well, I hope you can go back and somehow like put a sound effect over that or something, like, you know, pretend I cursed. I think that was kind of like cursing. So, I mean, that's how it felt when it rolled out.
Yeah, I mean, in my, I do appreciate that, Mom, but I'm a very much the elder millennial, and my parents giving me compliments is so weird. Like, gotta say.
You do have confidence, because that's one of the things that I don't ever talk about this, but one of the things that I look for when I go to trade shows is I look for the women, of course, because that's my niche. And I look to see how they act when they're on the floor or if they're walking around. So what's their body language? How are they talking? And I was quite impressed with you, Lauren. Like, you are really confident, you know your stuff, and that's what I appreciate.
That's what 38 years of experience gets you.
She should know her stuff.
There's still some women who have been in this industry a really long time, and I feel like they're hesitant to come out of their shell because of the history that we've had in this industry. But I just admire women like both of you, because you do inspire other women to come out of their shell and, you know, say F off to imposter syndrome. Like, what, we don't need to be talking about that anymore. Like, we all need to be good with our skill set, talk about it in a confident way. And
I do have some imposter syndrome some days, because, you know, I make some decisions that I totally do not feel qualified in making. I mean, that goes with running a small business, and that's always been the case. You know, sometimes I just have to wing it. So the imposter syndrome thing, I can relate to that very much, because I'll even tell Lauren, it's like, I don't even feel qualified to make this decision. And she's just like, well, you know, do your best. And so I'm not going to lie, I turn to prayer a lot and really try to have the humility to try to do my highest sense of right, even when I'm not for sure what that is. So everybody else out there that are running their own business, you know, if you're out there making confident decisions every time, well, you need to contact me and show me how, because this is 40 years and I'm still a little like, oh, I don't know.
I think that's the way you know that you're growing, though. Like, if you feel so confident all the time, I think you're not in a stage of growth. But when you start feeling uneasy and uncomfortable, that's like you're challenging yourself. So I think it's good to have it, but I don't think we should call it something else, because it's not that you lack the skill set, it's just a stage of growth. So I'm trying to get rid of that word. Definitely.
I mean, it's not like imposter syndrome, it's just like
something new. I don't know, like,
yeah, it's entrepreneur syndrome.
Yes.
Let's do that. I like that better. I do have
entrepreneur syndrome.
So Becca said, nice getting to know about you both and the business. David's tuning in from Lexington, Kentucky.
Hey,
thank you.
Hey, David.
Jake Hall didn't know you repped FlexLink before that. So
you've been around a long time, Jake.
Jake is always full of knowledge, so I'm surprised that he learned something today on the show. Huh?
Well, there we go. That's our new street cred. We taught Jake Hall something new. Like,
wow.
Becca's
we'll make a meme about that. I don't know. I mean, we should do something to commemorate.
You should do that. That would be funny. Becca's formerly from Illinois, now in Tennessee. I'm jealous of you, Becca, because Tennessee is like one of my favorite states, and I want to move there so bad. We have Don, 15 minutes till Popeye shout out, new world record. In all seriousness, Chester is a great town with great people that is centrally located.
Well,
and then,
you know. Oh, it's getting juicy. Yeah, talking about the Popeye, interesting thing. This is the home of Popeye. This is like, we would have a large festival every year, and we did a live broadcast radio show for Popeye. And believe it or not, and those of you that know me really well will probably find this more believable, I was the voice of the sea hag in the Popeye live broadcast radio shows. And yes. Lauren was the voice of Sweet Pea and later Granny, Popeye's Granny.
Yes.
So, yeah,
yes.
I mean, I've got to see
you were lucky, Meaghan. You're with celebrities, like in a very, very niche market.
Still cool though. Like, I want to hear these now. Do you have recordings?
Hey man, I'm sure there's digital copies out there, or you can always contact PopeyeTheSailorman.com and join the Popeye fan club, and then have access to all of these backstage, maybe B-roll footage. I mean, I do the makeup with the green face, the whole thing, and
yeah.
And my husband, we actually built a Popeye motorcycle bike back in the time when American Chopper was really, really cool. We decided we were going to do this parody, because if you guys haven't realized it yet, we have this insane sense of humor, and we're like, if we can't be having fun at work, why would we be doing it? So we did this Popeye bike, and we filmed it, and I was Big Paul and he was Little Paul, and we built the bike and did all of this. So he created a Popeye bike. It got a 3-page spread in Biker Magazine. We took it around to all of these bike shows, and so that was really cool. So Don, we do have a very deep connection to Popeye.
That's awesome. So 6 degrees of separation, or Kevin Bacon, whatever the heck they call it. 2 of my proudest moments, I actually met Paul Sr. and Jr. It was like around the time that they got into their fight and like separated and did their own thing. So I worked with a magazine called Product Design and Development, and Paul Sr. did a bike for Siemens. So I did the cover story for that and met him there. And then Paul Jr. did another bike for a different company. It was like something special about their battery or whatever. It was like a green version. So I met him like a month or 2 later, and that was a different cover story. So we had 2 cover stories with both Pauls on it, and everybody was like, "Oh, did they talk crap about?" And I'm like, "No, I wasn't talking to them about their relationship. I didn't care about that. I wanted to know more information about their bike." So
we didn't get a cover, but we got a 3-page spread in Biker Magazine, and we were quite proud to have that. So it was pretty exciting times.
So how was it? And I want to get through some of these comments too. So Becca said, and you're correct about people getting degrees and leaving small towns. The term for this is brain drain, for anyone curious. And then Stephen, what is the praise from parents you were speaking of?
I feel like, I know we haven't known each other on LinkedIn that long, but I feel like we're kindred spirits, my friend, I gotta say.
And then Dale Parker, deciding is always the right thing to do. Not deciding stops everything. That's true. Jake's laughing about us talking about him. And then Bridget, so instead of conveyor cougar, we need to call you sea hag.
No. Bridget, I answer to both. I mean, you can just call me. It's dealer's choice on that. You throw me a sea hag and I'll probably give you the cackle. I mean, not gonna lie.
So I think we should dive into that story a little bit, because for people who might not know you, they might not know the story. And I had a couple people reach out to me, and they're like, before I met you, and they're like, "Hey, do you know who the conveyor cougar is?" And I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And they're like, "You haven't met Cathy?" And I'm like, "What? Like, no, who is the conveyor?" And they're like, "How do you feel about that name?" And I'm like, "I think it's hilarious if she's in manufacturing. Like, that's a great way to start a conversation." So like, that's how I first found out about you, because people kept asking me if I knew who you were, and I'm like, well, now I need to know who she is. So how did you get that nickname?
Well, I'm a smartass.
Yeah, Lauren, it's all Lauren. We had a meeting in trouble with a group of really young engineers, and I mean young engineers, and I walk into her office, and I'm like, when did I become the old lady in the room? I mean, just when did this happen? Why has nobody told me I'm now the old lady? And I'm like, I feel like I'm in here trying to sell automation equipment to these babies. I feel like such a cougar. And she laughs, and little smarty pants is like, ha ha ha, yeah, Mom, you're a conveyor cougar. And it was like the aha moment. Oh my gosh, but I am though. and then it stuck, and she hated it because she had coined it. And then
my own damn fault. Like,
we had a consulting, well, they weren't really a consulting company. They were a marketing company that was doing some work for us. And we were making all these cool videos. And if you guys haven't seen Ruts Robot Emporium, where I dress up like my husband and do this like fake infomercial, you need to go out on YouTube and search it. But anyway, all of these were out on YouTube, and they're just like getting crickets. And so they were like, well, you need to get on TikTok if you want to get some attention to your videos. And my little millennial down there. She's like, not it. And so here I am, mind you, we've established the old lady in the room, right? And I'm like, well, heck, okay, I'll do some TikToks. So I went out and I found an 11-year-old, show me how. And then I started cranking out these TikToks. And then the added benefit was I got to see how much it actually aggravated Lauren, which was a bonus. I mean, all you moms out there, you know, I'm talking, that's a bonus right there. So yeah, the conveyor cougar name, tell him the U-Stack story. I mean, that was the first time she actually admitted that maybe there was something to it.
Well, and then you shared something before you get into that story. You shared something on LinkedIn, and I was laughing so hard because didn't you get like a package or something that said conveyor kitten on it or something?
Yes.
And I was like, oh man, like. So Lauren,
I absolutely love to call her that. She absolutely hates to be called that. So definitely.
Yes, I keep trying to make myself like the automation armadillo because like I just want to curl in a ball and have a protective shell and nobody talk to me. But she has not let that stick yet. I have to say.
And it's never gonna, just saying. She's like, I'm 38 years old. I'm hardly a kitten. I'm like, well, you'll always be my kitten. So But yeah, we're getting some name recognition, and you're right. It is a little bit on the borderline because every once in a while I'll get a super sketchy message in my inbox about being a cougar, and I'm like, let me just back that off a little bit. That's not the kind of cougar I am. But first of all, I want to thank you for thinking that I could be. You know, I mean, thanks, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have a pretty good sense of humor in this industry, I think, overall.
Oh, yes.
I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards you as well, too. And, you know, I've been writing for the sector since 2008. And one of the biggest pet peeves of mine is people are like, oh, well, you should have to have thick skin in this industry. And I'm like, well, no, you should just be able to be who you want. But then there's a lot of people now. So I'm technically an elder millennial.
Woo, represent.
I'm the youngest of 6, so all of my siblings, except for one, they're all Gen X. So I have like Gen X tendencies. So like when people and my parents kind of raised me old school too. Like you just don't speak to your parents a certain way or they're gonna smack you. Like that's just what they did. So I don't get easily offended by anything, and it's like I think if we can laugh at each other and joke about certain things, it makes life easier. And like you said, if you're not having fun at work, then what are you doing? But
yeah,
Lauren, I want to know more too. Like, was your husband always involved with FlexLine, or did that just kind of come along with you guys get married and then you just pulled him in that way? Like, how did that whole situation happen?
Yeah, so we met online. Through Farmers Only, actually. He hates it that I admit that out loud. But I think it's freaking hilarious.
I think it is.
So he lived about an hour and a half away, but over the course of our dating and everything, he has an engineering degree in mechanical engineering. He's done civil engineering through the Air Force. He's got a master's in explosives engineering, and
that's what attracted him to me. You know, it was the
explosive. But whenever he moved over here and we got married and everything, he decided that he was ready for a little bit of a change, and so he really jumped feet first into.
He heads up our robotics
and I mean, he's brilliant, like absolutely brilliant. He's the kind of guy that just like gets on YouTube and teaches himself anything and everything. And I swear, like we'll be talking about something and he'll be like, oh yeah, well, I learned that whenever I spent that summer as an electrician, and like just all of these little tidbits. And I'm like, were you like a spy or something? Like you have these random skills and I don't really know where you got them, but so yeah, it's really nice. And he and I, over the course of our dating and everything, we built several sheds together. We remodeled a house together. We did all of this stuff that really kind of set us up and proved to us like, hey, yeah, we can work together, and we actually enjoy working together, which I know a lot of people are like, oh, I could never work with my spouse. And I really don't understand that, because like, I mean, yeah, sometimes work follows you home, but it's still so nice to have somebody at work that, you know,
Yeah.
you're backed. Like
Sometimes it's nice that
right?
work does follow you home. Sometimes that comes in handy.
You're like Christmas and Thanksgiving gatherings have to be really interesting conversations.
Now her uncle also works here at the company, and my sister's husband and my sister sometimes comes in and helps out, and also both my nieces interned here before they went on to their careers. So I mean, we've really, really taken on the family business full tilt, you know.
So what tips can you give other family businesses? Because like, how do you can't spend every waking moment with each other. Like you just can't. And then the bad thing is like you have to know when to separate so that you're not at each other's throats. Like this is just an assumption I'm making. So like, yes,
the early years were especially hard. You know, especially starting the business when you were trying to hammer out like whose responsibilities were going to be whose. And, you know, our employees would kind of do like kids do to their parents. Oh, mom said no, I'll go and ask dad. And then dad would say yes. And then mom would get really bent out of shape and all of those things. And so, you know, I know I've posted before that it would almost come to blows because we were both very passionate.
I can attest to that.
And so finally, one day we just like wrote all of the things down and drew these circles like this giant Venn diagram. And we decided, you know, who was going to have authority over what areas. And then there was just a small sliver that, you know, there was some overlap, but, you know, the thing was, well, you make a decision in your circle. It doesn't matter if I agree with it or disagree with it. I have to respect it because it's in your circle. So once we came up with the circles, a lot of the discourse, you know, stopped, and we were able to have a more respectful relationship. And then, you know, the other thing that seasons that is age. Now at this point, you know, I'm still really passionate about what I do, but I'm a lot more patient than I was at that time. And so, you know, the whole, I can not talk about it during a meal now. And before I probably couldn't, but now I can sit back and have other interests and do other things. And I found a way to add balance. But even in as small of company as we have, I mean, sometimes Lauren and I don't even see each other all the day. You know, her husband works over, we have 3 facilities here locally. Her husband works over at building 2. So, you know, it's not like we're on top of each other. My husband is on his way to Iowa today. So he's out of town. And so we don't see each other as much as one would probably think. Even as small as we are, there's quite a bit of a space that we give one another.
So then with your farm, do you consider that additional work, or is that like the place for you to go and get away from work? Because that had to be a hard decision too, because starting your own business and then running a farm, which was a business in itself as well too, like how were you able to balance all of that out and do both?
I grew up on a farm, and yes, it is work, especially when it's like 14 degrees today, and I've got to make sure that the cows still have water and that the waters for the horses are working. Because as I said, my husband's on the way to Iowa. So, you know, it's going to be my baby if something is froze up, or, you know, we got to move hay. And so Lauren has grown up with it. And so when she started her farm, I think it was, and I don't want to put it.
Well, you own your own farm too?
Yes, we have separate farms. Yes.
Yeah, Eric and I raise grass-fed beef, you know, on the side.
That's cool. Do you sell it privately or do you sell it?
We at this point sell just by like the quarter, half, and whole,
Okay.
privately, and then I mean, we ship calves to other people that want to finish out grass-fed beef for more commercial.
And
I
we
will
raise
probably
grain-fed cows.
okay.
So
I'll probably be connecting with both of you after this because my dad is a huge fan of like buying from
yeah,
smaller farms and stuff. And so my daughter's roommate, one of her roommates, lives on a farm. And every time my daughter comes home, she'll drive out an hour just to go hang out with her because she loves hanging out with the cows and stuff. But they're beef cattle. So
Mhm.
my when we moved her in this last time, my dad had like a full-fledged conversation with her roommate, and all of a sudden she's selling him beef, and I'm like, your dad should probably hire you as one of your salespeople because you just like no problem. And she's like, I do it all the time when he doesn't give me commission or anything, and
no,
I just
no.
that's hilarious.
I
Well,
could not imagine not living on a farm, though. I mean, as much work as it is, I could not imagine. You know, Lauren was heavily in 4-H as a kid, and we had horses, and they were doing fun shows. When everybody else was worried about where their teenagers were, I didn't have to worry because Lauren and all her friends were hanging out in our horse barn, and we were hauling them to fun shows, and we were doing all of the things. And so I have to say, I wouldn't have wanted to raise a child anywhere other than a farm because you just learn so much. And she's so independent and so competent. And a lot of that comes from the fact that when you're on a farm, you have to have ingenuity. I'm going to be by myself this weekend. I'm going to have some ingenuity. If something breaks down, I have to be able to fix it. And fortunately for me, I was the youngest of two girls. My dad was a girl dad. My sister was raised as the girl because he was, I guess, in hopes that the second child would be a boy. And then I came along and I wasn't. And so he was like, well, heck, I got to make the best out of this, right? And so I got to be the boy child. And fortunately, he taught me how to rebuild tractors and work on equipment and do all the things, on a farm. And that has helped me be in this business because I am not afraid to pick up a wrench. I'm not afraid to jump in and do what has to be done mechanically. I mean, hey, I'm not just a pretty face that sits here at my desk and make TikToks all day long. Sometimes I'm out running airline. I'm doing whatever needs to be done here. And Lauren's the same way, she's very competent in the mechanical end of things because of the fact that, that's what we have just grown up doing and building and fixing. And that just all is second nature at this point.
So then what would your insights be or your advice be? Because right now, we're hearing a lot about workforce development and the struggles that some companies are doing, like trying to find talent walk through the doors. Like, what are some of the things you guys are talking about within your own communities to really make manufacturing like fun and popular among the next generations? Because one of the things I know of Jay Call, since he's listening, and he focuses on a lot of the generational differences when he goes and talks, and he's just like, this is, how baby boomers are, this is how Gen X is, this is how the millennials are.
He's not wrong. Not at all. There's some big differences.
Right. And like Gen Z, like the one that my daughter's from, highly annoying, but I love them. Like, but they are the true digital natives. They're always on some sort of technology, which I think is advantageous for us here in manufacturing because that's where we're going, right? Like everything's so high tech now. So what are some of the things you're doing within your own community to really get people excited about manufacturing, especially younger girls, because that's my niche and I want to talk about it. So, and you two are ladies and you're rocking it out. So can you share about that?
We like to have kids visit us a lot. We've had some STEM classes come, and we always like pull the girls aside and be like, hey, don't. My dad told me you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. And then when I grew up, your choices were teacher, nurse, homemaker, secretary. That's what my guidance counselors pushed me towards. that's not the case anymore. I think kids really have this tremendous opportunity that people in my generation, and I'm right in I could step 1 foot as a boomer and 1 foot as an Xer. I am right on the cusp. And so I get Jake's generational stuff and I see it in our own business, but I'm so proud that Lauren is trying to develop a robotics club with a local school, and I'll let her tell you about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was kind of inspired, right? So we've had a few programming clubs and different things come in, but they were from like 45 minutes, an hour away, and they would come in for a day of just playing with our robot demos. The guys would set up workstations for them and everything. And it was really, really cool to see. And I'm like, oh my God, we need to do this locally. And so I've been doing some outreach with local schools. And then one of them, just before the Christmas holiday, was like, yep, we're going to do it. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm going to have to figure out exactly like how to do this. So if anybody has any resources for, starting a high school level programming club, or even like a grade school, I mean, I'm open to trying to figure out and kind of get a curriculum together, because I think there's a lot of people and teachers that are interested in it. And it's just like, they have no idea where to start. And I can understand that, because I know I have a lot of resources through like A3 and PMMI and things like that I don't even know how to use well, let alone someone who isn't in this industry and doesn't even know that these resources exist. And so one of the things that is kind of one of my goals for this year is to try to pull everything together into I don't know if curriculum is the right word, but like just a group of resources. Like, hey, if your school is interested in starting something, these are some ideas here, reach out.
Have you reached out to First?
I looked into it after you suggested that, and we don't have anything close to us locally. I mean, we are really located in the middle of nowhere. We're about 60 miles southeast of St. Louis, so we're nowhere near Chicago. We are way at the other end of the state, and there's not a lot of resources here. And we're right in a rural area, and so we are definitely going to look into First more and see what we can find, if we can get something even started with that here locally. We're just really finding that talking with people and, like your podcast, Nikki's Automation Ladies, Allie, all of you guys are doing such a great job. And we try to share that across all of the other platforms. And even though, I don't have any kids in the family that are at that point, I have friends that do, or I have friends that have grandkids. And so we try to share as much as we can. And our doors are always open. If you're rolling through Chester, Illinois, stop in and see us. We'd love to give you a tour. Bring the kiddos. We would love to let them play with the robots. I mean, robots are not, it's a little intimidating. And my little smarty in marketing down there, she's super smart. We're at the trade show in Vegas.
Smart ass.
I'm programming the robot, and meanwhile she's videoing and she's sending out the Snapchat. Oh, look, it's so easy. Even the company president can do it. So, if that could be the new campaign that
you're welcome.
Robotics is so easy. Even the company president can do it. So we're just trying to get that out there that, don't be intimidated. Stop and play with it. I mean,
well, absolutely.
And robots, they'd have them doing things we never even imagined they could do.
And whenever we've taken like the UR, we've done a few demos at local schools and things. And Eric even took it. He was on his way to a customer and he stopped in. Our nieces and nephew live about 6 hours away. And he stopped in at his sister's house with the robot and like took it in and set it up on the dining room table and had the nibblings over there programming this UR to do different applications in like 15 minutes. I mean, it's so simple. And part of, so I've been asked to do another presentation on technology updates from IMEC, which is an organization here in Illinois. And I'm going to be presenting at the OSHA Safety Con actually in about 2 weeks on different technology advancements. But one of the things that I hit on with that is that collaborative, whenever it comes to a robot, to me doesn't just mean like, oh, hey, yeah, it's going to stop if it hits you. It's actually the ease of use and the ease of programming and the way that technology is moving. All of these types of automation are becoming more and more intuitive, and especially for younger generations. And these younger generations are really going to want to work with stuff like that because it's cool. Who wouldn't want to work with a robot, right? Like, and especially if it's intuitive for them.
Right. Well, and any little kid, I'm sorry, like if you tell them not to touch something, they want to touch it, right? But if you like put them in a robot in front of them, I mean, I see kids all the time because they have STEM robots and stuff available on Amazon, and even my boys are like this. The thing moves, and they're like, I want to move with it, and I want to touch it, and I want to figure out how to play with it and program it and stuff. So I think we need to change the way how we're exposing kids to some of these STEM initiatives because their curiosity is at the peak when they're younger, and their imagination is just firing. And that's the best way to get some of the newest innovations is but allowing them to keep tapping into their imagination.
I'd love to see a robot in every kindergarten class. I mean,
Right?
That's a great place to put them. That's when kids really have that idea.
Yeah, there's got to be some way to do it. I just, why aren't we doing it now? But I know there's like a lot of challenges and policies and legislation and funding and all that stuff that we got to figure out on a community by community basis. So
right. And I think that a lot of that should be on integrators and manufacturers. I mean, historically, we as an industry don't really do a good job of selling ourselves to consumers because you know what, we're business to business. So why would we find ourselves in those locations? But really, we've got to work to change the mindset of what a manufacturing job looks like and what automation is. In that conversation that we had with Nikki, we talked a little bit about getting off the plane and headed to the A3 forum earlier this week. And as soon as the taxi driver found out where we were going and what we were doing, he was like, oh, well, robots just take jobs. And I was like, oh my God, this conversation again.
I've been on a plane all day and you're going to tell me this,
Because there's still that big misconception. And I think as an industry, we've just kind of let it be there. We haven't really taken to the streets and to the schools and been like, hey, let's provide some education. Let's provide some opportunities. Let's talk about what advancements in automation actually mean for community. Because, all of us, we're all like, we're going to use ChatGPT to write a term paper or do research, but yet you start talking AI with relationship to work related things. And we're like, oh my God, I don't want to have automation in my factory. It's like, but you've got automation in the palm of your hand with your phone. And with as intuitive as that is, and drawing those parallels, I think would be a really good place to start.
I'll bring it back to farming. When we plant our crops, before we plant our crops, we have to spend a considerable amount of resources in fertilizing. And those of you fellow farmers out there, the cost of fertilizer is just crazy high. But if we don't make that investment in putting nutrients back into the soil, then our crops are going to suffer. And I think that's where we are in automation. We haven't put sufficient resources back into the soil to grow these next generations of workers. And it is expensive. It's expensive not only monetarily, it's expensive in as far as time, it's expensive in just all of these ways. But we haven't fertilized. And so we have nobody to blame for the crop that we have but ourselves, because if you don't put the sufficient nutrients back in, you aren't going to get anything out of it. So, I use a lot of farm analogies because there is a lot of crossover. And that's one way you just have to look at it. You have to look at it like, you know, I'm fertilizing. I'm trying to put some nutrients back into the soil so that my next crop flourishes. And that's where we need to be.
Yeah, Justin just said he loved that analogy, and then Dale said where people get the misconception, a lot of robots are to increase safety and make jobs easier so folks can do other things to help a business grow.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's the point that I wanted to make. Like, we're doing all these mundane tasks that actually over a long period of time end up hurting people because they're repeating tasks. And when you're
Quality
focused
of
on
life
that
is important, you know?
right. And when you're focusing on that one thing, you're limiting your brain to think about other things that it could be thinking about. So when you free people up from those tasks, it's allowing them to kind of open up their mind a little bit and do something else that could be more meaningful and more valuable to them. And
well, I'm almost 60 years old, and I haven't always taken the best care of myself living on a farm. You know, I mean, I didn't always practice all of the ergonomic practices. I did a lot of the repetitive stuff, the dull, dirty, dangerous things. And I can tell you at this stage in my life, I mean, I have issues with a knee. I mean, the human body can't take the abuse long term. So we need robots. We need to give people a better quality of life. Mm-hmm. You know, I at trade shows spend the whole day breaking down boxes, you know, and that's like 8 hours of that task. And by the time the day is over, I am shot. You know, we want to give people a better work experience than that. And I know we talked with Nikki about the fact that one of the problems that we have as in an industry is we sell, and we're out there, we sell to the engineer and we get the purchase order, and then the sale stops. And it really shouldn't, because we need to sell the people in the plants. We need to sell the people that are going to be benefiting from the automation. We need to continue the sale way past the point of the order. And we really need to get their buy-in, because, you know, there's going to be nobody better at attracting more people in manufacturing than people that are already in manufacturing. Right. So if we put our money where our mouth is and we make their jobs great and we give them some of that benefit, they're going to be out there promoting people to come into our industry, and they're going to do it with a lot more credibility than we could ever dream to.
That's a really good point.
It is a really good point. Well, we're almost on time, so I do want to go over these last couple of comments because some of them are funny. Jake knew about the cougar. I thought you would know. And then Justin said Rex Robot Emporium is a freaking classic. Dale, never old, my friend, just not as young as we used to be. I like that. I really like that. Farmers only, no flipping wine.
Yeah. Oh, we have stories about that, Jake. Hit us next time you see us. We've got some farmers only stories.
Oh boy, yes. Do I have? Yes, you guys could be.
You know,
as long as you want to come here, because
yes, Justin, we used 100 pounds of tannerite to blow out a little issue we had in a creek. So yeah, that explosive engineering comes in very handy on a farm, you know. So
we did that for a gender reveal for my son Ronan.
Oh boy.
So my former husband, he was a veteran, and my sister-in-law wanted to do a gender reveal, and I'm like, well, I don't know how to do one of those because it's like never was interested in doing them, and I don't. So then my former husband's like, can I shoot a gun at explosives? And I'm like, I don't care if we decide. He took his rifle and shot at a container, and it blew up blue smoke. It was one of the coolest things.
And her husband lit a Unity cannon at their wedding. You know, most people do the Unity candle. I mean, one thing about us folks, we're about as redneck as it gets. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we have all of the Midwestern values, the rural ingenuity, all of the things. We have them in spades.
So do you have the giant ass bonfires?
Yeah, we do.
I gotta come visit y'all.
You do. Heck yeah. We have a flamethrower. If you guys haven't seen our flamethrower video, I mean, we did a lot of videos with the flamethrower. I'll have you know that was a farm expense because I use it a lot on the farm.
But I saw a video on TikTok where somebody was cleaning their driveway off.
The possibilities are really really endless.
You have to get the backpack attachment for that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just don't. You burn through the fuel really.
I think it's only got like 15 seconds of fuel if you don't have the backpack.
Yeah, it's not worth it without the backpack. So get the backpack for sure.
And then Steven wanted to pricing for your cows, and then blinked twice. You were just on Farmers Only and woke up a few later with no recollection.
That's about how it went, Don.
And then we have Phil. Hi,
Hey,
he
Phil.
said amazing. And then Justin, Cathy, I love that analogy so much. Oh, I shared that one before. Sorry. And then I did that one. And then Dale, projects always succeed when the plant floor is part of the project. So,
It's true.
well, this has been fun, and we're a little over, and I don't care. That's fine.
Hey, thanks for having us. You know,
Yes.
we appreciate it. We are never short on stories or funny things to talk about. For sure.
I can't wait to see you guys in person again and maybe go out for drinks. But I do want to ask you one final question, because I feel like it's important that we have an ask for our audience, because like you mentioned before, it's up to us to promote our industry and really get people excited about it and want to come join the workforce with us. So if you had one ask for our audience today, what would your biggest ask be for them?
Well, I'm going to say I would like to give you like, you know, the when Miss America and they ask that and I say something like world peace, but I'm not going to give you the Miss America answer. I'm going to be like, my big ask is, hey, why aren't you doing some more business with FlexLine Automation? I mean, come on, we should be working together. Vendors, you know, why aren't we collaborating? Why aren't we doing projects together? So that's my ask.
Laura, do you have a different one, or pretty much?
Well, I mean, I can't really top that. I guess
you could go world peace.
Not going to go world peace. I guess if anybody has any resources for how to start a programming/robotics club, please reach out to me, because that is on my radar. And if anybody sees any really cool applications saying like, hey, this is a way that automation is advancing safety, apparently I present on that fairly frequently now. So I'm always looking for resources.
Awesome. I think Courtney Fernandez is part of the Women in Robotics group too. So maybe reach out to them and see if they have some way to do a robotics. I know First has resources, because I'm still trying to start one here in the community that I'm in. And gosh, politics just irritate the shit out of me, because it's all of the legislation and policy stuff and how much funding the school can get versus how much they can't get. It's just complicating the whole process, and I'm over it. So yeah, but for the people you want to work with you, how can they get a hold of you, and what's the best way to contact you?
I would just go to our website, www.flex-lineautomation.com, and there is a contact us form on the page, or otherwise reach out to us on LinkedIn. That's always a good way to get a hold of us.
Yeah, if you're not already followers, follow us. I'm sure you'll regret it, but for the time being, follow it. We'll have some fun content. You know, give us a call, 618-826-5086. Call after hours. You're going to get our cell phone numbers, because we're very into customer service. So if you see us somewhere, stop us and say hello. If I don't recognize you, don't take it personally. It's because I've reached that stage of almost senility, and so I don't always remember people.
Also, she don't remember wear her glasses, even though she needs her glasses, and then she'll come up and be like, "Who was that? I couldn't read." They're on your shirt. Just wear them. But
yeah, factual.
What's the next trade show you're going to be at?
The next trade show we will be at
Modex.
We are going to be at Modex. We're going to be co-exhibiting with a customer of ours, Smart Carton, and I believe A10109. And then the next one after that we'll be at will be at Automate, of course. So
yeah.
So if you're going
to after that.
Awesome. Well, if you're going to be at any of those shows, make sure you guys stop by them, because you're not going to regret meeting them in person. They're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun to hang out with. So, well, thank you, Lauren and Cathy. I appreciate you two so much.
Thanks for having us, Meaghan. We appreciate it. Everybody that watched, thank you.
Yep. Well, I hope everyone has a great weekend. And yeah, I am hoping to have a pre-recording next week for a new episode of Mavens of Manufacturing. But stay safe, stay warm, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
This episode of Mavens of Manufacturing has been sponsored by Z Ink Solutions. Z Ink Solutions. This isn't your grandmother's copywriting service. We provide copywriting and copy editing services that provide impactful text and memorable storytelling for a variety of brands and industries. Contact us today at zinkSolutions.com. That's z-inksolutions.com.